This is a TV5 News special. Campaign 2016, the Democratic presidential debate in Flint.
We begin with this live look over the Whiting in Flint, site of the Democratic debate between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. And here's a little of how it went.
I believe the governor of this state should understand that his dereliction of duty was irresponsible. He should resign.
I agree. The governor should resign or be recalled, and we should.
And there you have it. The two candidates have something they agree on. They say Governor Snyder should fall on the sword for Flint's water problems. Thanks for joining us tonight for this special edition of TV5 News at 11, where we wrap up the biggest political event in mid-Michigan in quite some time.
That's right. We will spend some of this hour dissecting tonight's debate and looking at its potential impact on the region. Flint's water crisis was front and center right off the bat, and we've reported extensively the city's water supply became contaminated with lead while under the direction of a state-appointed emergency manager.
The candidates did not waver on what they thought should happen to the people responsible.
President Sanders would fire anybody who knew about what was happening and did not act appropriately.
So I would have a full investigation, determine who knew what when, and yes, people should be fired. How far up it went, I don't know. But as far as it goes, they should be relieved because they failed this city.
A point of contention between the two, Clinton's promise to go after companies that leave America for tax benefits.
They're going to have to pay an exit fee. We're going to stop this kind of job exporting, and we're going to start importing and growing jobs again in our country.
I am very glad, Anderson, that Secretary Clinton has discovered religion on this issue. But it's a little bit too late. Secretary Clinton supported virtually every one of these disastrous trade agreements.
And the two also tussled over speeches Clinton gave to banking groups and disagreed over fracking.
Of course, tonight's winner depends on who you talk to. And for that part of the story, we go to Andrew Keller in the spin room at the U of M of Flint. Drew.
These two candidates have certainly devoted a lot of time to Flint, the Flint water crisis, and really focusing in on how to fix that problem today. There was a little bit of a chuckle in this new into the press room, the spin zone as they called it, when it seemed like Bernie Sanders took the gloves off. Obviously, he has told us that Michigan is a must-win come Tuesday to try to keep his campaign moving forward. Now we'll turn to Clinton, and for that we have to turn to Dan Kildee because I have to be fair. You told me you're a Clinton supporter. Right. Big news for the city of Flint. The Whiting, first of all, the Whiting looked great, didn't it?
It did look great. You know, we have so many assets here. The Whiting Auditorium was beautiful. And I think for us to be able to show that we have our problems, we have this big crisis, but we've got something to build from. We have some assets. It's a good message to the rest of the country.
What was the message like? You said you were sitting second row. You know, seeing those two candidates up there in your city, you know, the message of Flint water crisis. Did you like what you heard from both candidates? Not so much. What do you think?
Well, obviously, I think both candidates are in the right place in terms of guaranteeing that they're going to pursue help for the people of Flint. That's really important, and it's a pretty stark contrast to what we saw in the Republican debate. The thing that I was attracted to is that Secretary Clinton shows that she's going to work to break down barriers for these 9,000 kids and for the 100,000 people of Flint that have been really hurt by their own state government, and that she's going to break down barriers for businesses who want to grow and sell their products across the nation and across the world by having an export-import bank, for example.
Both candidates have talked about the amount of money they want to put toward the infrastructure problem in America. Is it feasible in Congress?
Yeah, in fact, what's not really sustainable is to not make that kind of expenditure. We become more competitive. Our economy grows when we invest in infrastructure. China, for example, spends 10 times what the U.S. does as a percentage of their GDP on infrastructure investment. If we're going to compete, we've got to have good roads, bridges, ports, airports, and water systems. It's really important.
All right, Representative Kildee, thank you very much for joining us. And yes, we are in the spin zone. Many of supporters from both sides we've seen in here, many claiming their own victories. Obviously, it was a very interesting debate, especially with it being so focused on what happens in our backyard. Live in the spin zone, I'm Andrew Keller, WNEM-TV5.
All right, Drew, thank you. And now that we've heard from both sides, we turn to someone who makes it a point to watch both sides.
That's right. It's longtime political expert Bill Ballinger. And for that, here's Meg McLeod.
Hi, David. Hi, Colette. Yeah, Bill Ballinger has been studying politics for decades now. And so we wanted to get his take about the debate tonight. So what are your takeaways from this Democratic debate?
Very spirited, contentious debate. I think this was the best one they've had in the entire election cycle. I think both Hillary and Bernie got in shots at each other, and I think the crowd enjoyed it, both inside Whiting Auditorium and the TV audience.
And do you think that this was maybe slightly different than debates in the past between the Democrats?
Well, you got to remember the earlier ones had Martin O'Malley, the governor of Maryland, included. Now it's mano a mano, one-on-one, Bernie and Hillary, so that was a little different. I think as we get farther along in the election process, the stakes are higher. I think the points that each was making were sharpened tonight. So there were a few sharper elbows and maybe a little bit more vociferous and spirited and contentious, but that's all to the good. I think they both came off very well, and I think the electorate was well served by seeing this debate.
And being that you've studied politics for so long, what do you have to say about who won this debate?
Well, Hillary has a lead in the delegates. She's considered ahead. She's likely to win Michigan. That's what the polls show. And when you're ahead, you just got to avoid making a mistake. I don't think she made any mistakes, so you've got to say based on that, she probably comes out as the net winner, simply because Bernie Sanders had to make up ground on her tonight. I'm not sure he did that. He did extremely well. You could make a case that, you know, in forensics, debate judging, he did just as well. But the problem is he's got to catch up.
All right, Bill, thank you so much for being here with us.
My pleasure.
And for now, we'll send it back to David and Colette.
All right, Meg, thank you. We still have much more to come live here in Flint. For now, we will send it back to the studio.